Hollywood's treatment of women has certainly progressed over the years, but there's still a long road ahead in an industry shaped by patriarchy and male dominance. One actress who stood her ground and never compromised her identity was the iconic Maureen O'Hara. Celebrated as the Queen of Technicolor, O'Hara made an indelible mark on Hollywood not just for her dazzling acting talent and fiery spirit, but for helping pave the way toward better treatment of women in film. Despite her achievements, Maureen O'Hara endured many hardships throughout her career, some of which caused deep emotional pain and ultimately led to her retreat from the spotlight. In today's video, we explore her incredible journey, one filled with triumph, resilience, and sacrifice, before she rose to fame as one of Hollywood's brightest stars in the 1940s through the 1960s. Let's take a look at her humble beginnings. Born Maureen Fitzsimmons on August 17, 1920, on Beechwood Avenue in Dublin, Ireland, she came from a strong, spirited lineage traits, often associated with the Irish, and one she carried proudly throughout her life. In her memoir, she fondly recalls being part of an eccentric and remarkable family. Maureen was the second oldest of 6 children born to Charles and Marguerite Fitzsimmons. Interestingly, she was the only one among her siblings with fiery red hair, a feature that would later become one of her trademarks. Her father worked in the clothing business, while her mother, a successful clothier, had once been an operatic contralto. It was from her that Maureen inherited her vocal talent. In fact, her mother was considered one of the most beautiful women in Ireland. So much so that men would reportedly dash out of their homes just to catch a glimpse of her as she passed by. With a blend of natural talent and striking beauty in her genes, it seemed Maureen was destined for stardom from the start. As a child, she had a sturdy build, earning her the teasing nickname, Baby Elephant. But the young Maureen took it in stride. Rather than shy away, she embraced her strength, engaging in all sorts of activities typically considered for boys at the time: swimming, tree climbing, horseback riding, and soccer among them. As a child, young Maureen became so immersed in playing soccer that she once begged her father to start a women's team. She often played at Shamrock Rovers FC, a place she fondly referred to as her second home. Her tomboyish tendencies only deepened as she grew older. While most girls her age were gravitating toward cheerleading or more feminine pursuits, Maureen was throwing herself into judo in her later years. She reflected on the freedom boys enjoyed and how envious she had been of it. The boys could do anything, she said. They could run around causing trouble, and never got in trouble for it. Maureen also described herself as a headstrong child. "I was blunt, almost to the point of rudeness," she confessed in her biography written by Aubrey Malone. "I told the truth and shamed all the devils. Didn't take discipline well. I would never be slapped in school. If a teacher had slapped me, I would have bitten her. I guess I was a bold, bad child." But it was exciting. Maureen's passion for performing arts began early. She started dancing at the age of 5 and was enrolled at John Street West Girls' School in Dublin's Liberties neighborhood. During her time there, a curious Maureen visited a fortune teller who predicted that she would one day become rich and famous. Taking the prophecy to heart, she ran around telling anyone who would listen that she was destined to become the world's greatest actress. Fortunately, her dreams weren't dismissed. She was born into a supportive family that nurtured her ambitions. Her first time on stage came at just 6 years old when she recited a poem at a school event. That spark ignited a passion that would only grow stronger. Soon, she and her siblings began training in drama, dance, and music. Maureen even referred to her family as the Irish Von Trapps. At age 10, she joined the Rathmans Theatre Company, performing in productions after school. Though she only had a few roles at the time, she already stood out quite literally. By age 12, Maureen was 5'6", which worried her mother, who feared she'd grow too tall for the stage. Thankfully, she stopped growing at 5'8". At 14, she joined the prestigious Abbey Theatre, where her talent was undeniable. Fess Award for her performance in The Merchant of Venice, studying under renowned director Lennox Robinson. Yet despite her success, Maureen realized that traditional theater wasn't quite for her. One interesting side note from this time: she trained as a shorthand typist, a skill that would later come in handy when she typed the script for The Quiet Man, a film that would become one of her most iconic roles. By the time she turned 17, Maureen's beauty and presence were drawing serious attention. The Abbey Theatre offered her a leading role, but her focus was elsewhere on the charismatic entertainer, Harry Richmond. Richmond had noticed her and went to great lengths to arrange a meeting, even coordinating with the Gresham Hotel where Maureen was dining with her family. He persuaded her to do a screen test at LRE Studios to explore a film career. Maureen agreed and traveled to London for the test, but the experience was far from ideal. She arrived overdressed and with too much makeup, unsure of how to present herself on camera. Still, director Charles Laughton saw a spark in her. He brought her to the attention of producer Eric Palmer, and after some back and forth, Maureen was offered a film contract at just 17 years old. Her family was stunned, but her journey to Hollywood had officially begun. Maureen made her screen debut in 1938 in Walter Ford's British musical comedy Kicking the Moon Around. However, she never truly considered this her first real film. Instead, she regarded My Irish Mollian, another 1938 British musical, as her true cinematic debut. This film was also the only one in which she was credited under her birth name, Maureen Fitzsimmons. Her breakthrough came just a year later in 1939, when she starred in the adventure thriller Jamaica Inn, directed by none other than Alfred Hitchcock. In the film, she played Mary Yellen, opposite Charles Laughton. This role marked a turning point in her career. Not only was it her first major role, but it was also the moment Laughton encouraged her to adopt a more stage-friendly surname. He suggested something simpler, like Omar or O'Hara. She didn't care for either. He ultimately chose O'Hara for her, a name that would become legendary. Later in life, Maureen admitted she accepted the change partly because no one could pronounce Fitzsimmons correctly anyway. Laughton played more than just a mentor in her early career. He became a sort of father figure, longed for a daughter of his own, and Maureen filled that emotional gap. When he passed away in 1962, she mourned deeply, saying it felt like she had lost a parent. Jamaica Inn introduced Maureen's talents to a wider audience. Critics, surprised by the depth of her performance, praised her not only for her striking looks, but also for her potential as a serious actress. One reviewer wrote that she showed distinct promise. Until then, Maureen, who had always seen herself as a tomboy, hadn't fully realized the extent of her own appeal. The praise was eye-opening. That same year, she landed a role that catapulted her into Hollywood's mainstream, Esmeralda in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, produced by RKO. The film was shot in the U.S., so Maureen, along with her mother and Charles Laughton, left for New York. Her portrayal of the enchanting gypsy dancer Esmeralda captivated audiences, while Laughton's haunting performance as Quasimodo stole much of the spotlight. The film was a commercial success, grossing over $3 million at the box office, an impressive feat at the time. Though much of the attention centered on Laughton, Maureen received acclaim for both her beauty and her performance. However, soon after this triumph, Maureen's career took an unexpected hit. With World War II looming, Laughton's production company shut down. Her contract was sold to RKO. She was devastated, heartbroken, and betrayed. But she pressed on. Her next role came in John Farrow's A Bill of Divorcement, a remake of George Cukor's 1932 film. In it, she portrayed Sidney Fairchild, a role that further showcased her range. But during this time, Maureen began facing the darker realities of Hollywood, as wasn't sadly still as often the case with beautiful newcomers. She encountered the industry's more predatory side, a painful pattern that would persist throughout her career. During the production of A Bill of Divorcement, Maureen faced a troubling ordeal with director John Farrow. Farrow found her attractive and began making suggestive comments, creating a hostile and uncomfortable work environment. His behavior escalated to stalking her at home, making Maureen's experience even more difficult. When she firmly rejected his advances, Farrow retaliated by openly bullying her on set. But Maureen was no stranger to standing her ground. With nerves of steel, she finally confronted Farrow and punched him square in the face. Only after that did his harassment stop, allowing the filming to continue without further incident. Later in her career, Maureen's name would be dragged through the mud, almost costing her everything. But there was one bold move she made that No one in Hollywood had dared to try before, which changed her fate. Stay tuned to learn all about it, following her work with Farrow. Maureen took on a few smaller roles, including the 1941 American musical They Met in Argentina. She already knew it would be a disaster, calling it a stinker with a terrible script, a bad director, a ridiculous plot, and forgettable music hand. Unfortunately, she was right. Thankfully, her luck soon changed when her agent secured her a role in the acclaimed 1941 film How Green Was My Valley. This marked the beginning of a fruitful partnership with director John Ford, who would become not only a frequent collaborator, but also a longtime friend. In the film, Maureen played Angharad Morgan, a member of a Welsh mining family living in the 19th century South Wales Valley. This role propelled her into mainstream success, winning her the part over established stars like Katharine Hepburn and Jean Tierney. While Ford's direction helped launch Maureen's career to new heights, with a steady stream of opportunities, their relationship was far from simple. Being tied to RKO Studios brought both blessings and challenges. On one hand, it opened doors and introduced her to influential figures. On the other, John Ford himself was known for his mercurial temperament and a harsh, sometimes cruel personality qualities. That made working with him as difficult as it was rewarding. Can you imagine someone punching Maureen O'Hara square in the face for no good reason? That's exactly what happened. But instead of backing down, Maureen stood her ground. Showing she could take a punch hand, that was enough to stop the harassment. Surprisingly, director John Ford, despite his rough temperament, granted O'Hara a certain degree of artistic freedom in her performances. Still, he always insisted on having the final say. This balance allowed Maureen to showcase her acting talent to the world, earning both critical acclaim and intense scrutiny from fans and reviewers alike. O'Hara's career gained momentum with many projects, and she earned the title Queen of Technicolor during this period. One of her early wartime films, To the Shores of Tripoli, where she starred alongside John Payne, was forgettable even by her standards. But in 1942, she finally found a project that ignited her passion. The swashbuckling pirate adventure, The Black Swan. Acting opposite Tyrone Power, she embraced the lavish production and excitement. Though the film was a blockbuster, some critics considered her performance mediocre. 2. Other films crucial to her growth as an actress were the American film noir, The Fallen Sparrow, and This Land Is Mine. Ash. In these roles, O'Hara broke free from the pretty face stereotype and revealed a full range of emotions. Ironically, despite being dubbed the Queen of Technicolor, O'Hara disliked working with the format. The intense lighting and multiple cameras irritated her eyes, and she even joked that the Technicolor title sounded negative to her. It was during this peak era that she first worked with John Wayne in the 1950 Western romance Rio Grande, directed by John Ford. This trio, O'Hara, Wayne, Ford, would collaborate on two more iconic films: the 1952 romantic comedy The Quiet Man and the 1957 war drama The Wings of Eagles. With John Wayne, O'Hara also made two films outside of Ford's direction: McClintock, 1963, and Big Jake, 1971. Their on-screen chemistry was so strong that rumors swirled they were romantically involved off-screen. Newspapers even claimed they had a secret love child. O'Hara's own candidness about how comfortable she was with Wayne only fueled these stories, which never fully died down. Of all her work, The Quiet Man remained Maureen O'Hara's personal favorite, and the one she was most proud of. Despite her success, O'Hara was often typecast, which made her working with John Ford, who provided her with varied and meaningful roles, the more valuable, at least in the earlier years. But finding a man who could be both a provider and protector proved difficult for a strong, independent woman like O'Hara, raised as a devout Catholic. She struggled deeply with the realities of her personal life, especially her marriages and their endings. Given the Church's view on divorce, her first marriage was a secret one, to an Englishman named George H. Brown, whom she met on the set of Jamaica in 1939. She was only 19. Her second marriage came in 1941 to American director William Houston Price, who was the dialogue coach on The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Their courtship was swift, and they consummated. The marriage immediately a decision she would come to regret deeply. Even worse, Price struggled with alcoholism. Though O'Hara never thought of leaving him, especially after the birth of their daughter, Bronwyn Bridget, the marriage steadily declined through the early 1940s. As much as she wanted to file for divorce, her Catholic faith left her feeling guilty. It wasn't until a decade later that Price filed for divorce on grounds of incompatibility, finally ending their troubled marriage. After her separation from William Houston Price, Maureen O'Hara found solace in the company of Enrique Parr, a wealthy Mexican politician. She often credited him with helping her through the turbulent period she endured with Price. Though deeply in love, Maureen ultimately had to leave Enrique, a decision she described as one of the most painful things I've ever had to do. Her third and final marriage was to Charles F. Blair, Jr., a man 11 years her senior and a prominent figure in his own right. Blair was a former brigadier general in the U.S. Air Force, a chief pilot of Panama, and a pioneer in transatlantic aviation. Among many other accomplishments, they married on March 12, 1968. Despite their high-profile careers, both O'Hara and Blair chose a quiet, peaceful life away from the spotlight. By then, Maureen had already stepped away from acting and devoted herself to helping her husband run his small airline company. Tragically, their time together was cut short when Blair died in a plane crash while flying from St. Croix to St. Thomas. Following his death, Maureen took over leadership of his company, managing it until she passed control on in 1981. Like many female stars of Hollywood's golden age, O'Hara was no stranger to tabloid gossip. Some stories were harmless, others cruel. But she was known to stand her ground when necessary, earning respect from both the media and her peers. During her relationship with Enrique Parr, she faced widespread disapproval, largely because many disliked him. John Ford, her longtime director and friend, was openly against the relationship, which strained their professional ties. Ford was also uncomfortable with Maureen's divorce from Price, sharing her devout Christian beliefs. Price himself did not support O'Hara's new relationship, escalating the conflict by harassing her and filing for custody of their daughter Bronwyn on the grounds of immorality. Instead of submitting, Maureen fought back fiercely in court. She filed a countersuit accusing Price of contempt for failing to pay child support. But perhaps her most notable battle was against Confidential magazine. While dating Parr, the scandalous publication insinuated that Maureen and the politician had engaged in illicit activity during a screening at Grauman's Chinese Theater. The magazine painted a lurid picture, claiming she entered the theater in a neatly buttoned white silk blouse, suggesting impropriety. In response, Maureen filed a $5 million lawsuit against Confidential. She proved her innocence by producing her passport, which showed she was filming in Spain at the time. Whether she won outright or settled out of court remains unclear. Her autobiography claims victory, while Aubrey Malone's biography says the case was settled quietly. Regardless, this act was groundbreaking for women in Hollywood, powerful stand against tabloid smears. In her later years, Maureen faced numerous health challenges. In 1978, she was diagnosed with uterine cancer and underwent surgery to remove the tumor. Throughout her battle, she maintained a close friendship with John Wayne. He wept with relief when she received the all clear. His death a year later plunged her into a prolonged depression. Her health struggles continued. In 1989, she survived 6 consecutive heart attacks in New York City, requiring angioplasty. In 2005, A stroke forced her to move to Glengariff, Ireland. Later reports revealed she had experienced elder abuse in May 2012, prompting her family to relocate her to live with her grandson in Idaho. Despite memory loss and type 2 diabetes in her final years, Maureen O'Hara passed away peacefully in her sleep on October 24, 2015, in Boise, Idaho, closing the final chapter of a remarkable life and legacy.